Consent items. Item 23, consideration of acceptance, rejection, amendment, and/or postponement of a donation of a Gray Key digital forensic tool and one-year service license valued at $25,270.50 from Operation Underground Railroad to be used by the police department for extracting information from iOS devices. This item was postponed from City Council meeting of October 12, 2021, with a motion on the floor to accept. I'd like to recognize Deputy Chief Jackson to make a report on his findings since the last meeting.
Good evening, everyone. A couple of weeks ago, I was standing before you, the council to request the acceptance of a donated item. And the donated item was proffered to us from an organization called OUR, which is Operation Underground Railroad. The item in question was a piece of equipment that's used to facilitate the unencryption of and the downloading of evidence from suspects' cell phones in regards to child exploitation and human trafficking. I was asked and requested by Councilmember Studley to conduct an investigation regarding some of her concerns. The concerns was that the organization, Operation Underground Railroad, was affiliated with some nefarious, shady-type characters, and their marketing procedures were questionable, and there were other issues concerning the organization. She then asked that I would do a little research and then come back before council and give them my findings. So, as I looked through the evidence on the internet, and let me make this perfectly clear, is that I've been a detective for a number of years before I started promoting. I got 20 years doing major case investigations. One thing I've never done is investigated a case based on public approval, internet information, web-based information, social media sentiment. You know, there's a process in place and there's a system in place to ensure that there's equity in when you investigate facts. It's based on facts, not on emotionality. And so having that in mind, understand that I did look into the internet and I looked at some of the comments and concerns voiced on the internet. And what I can say is this: sometimes when there's a little bit of smoke, there may be a fire, all right? And so as I'm doing my digging and I'm talking to, I reached out to Davis County District Attorney. They were investigating an allegation against OUR. So I reached out to them and they assured me there was an investigation ongoing, but there was no conclusion to the investigation. It was still pending. So they couldn't say one way or the other if these fears and allegations were based on any particular fact, okay? So I then reached out to other people that also partnered with OUR, and some returned my phone calls, some didn't. But I did reach out to some law enforcement agencies, and the ones that would talk to me said that they didn't have any particular concerns about OUR. You know, they had a pretty good working relationship with them. However, over the last few years, their relationship tended to degrade a little bit. There were some allegations made against the organization that they didn't quite feel comfortable with. And so they moved on from the relationship. And I'm not going to bore you with a whole lot of details that they provided to me as to why they moved away. But it was enough to convince me that I could not completely put these allegations to rest. I could not completely feel comfortable moving forward with this organization, knowing that there are some concerns out there and knowing some of those concerns could be valid, right? So what I'm saying to you all tonight is that I wanted to thank Councilmember Studley for bringing it to our attention, because this is a partnership here. We work together. We work together to provide the best service we can to those in our community, right? And so because of that, I value her input and her concerns. And I think moving forward, I'm going to honor those concerns because, again, I think there may be something there. And because there may be something there, I'm going to pull this item off the agenda, or request that it be pulled off the agenda. And let's move on and try to find funding in another way. And I'm open to that. So if there's any questions about any of this, I'm here to answer.
Thank you, Deputy Chief, for looking into that issue and taking concerns seriously. I value your opinion and your research, and if you think this needs to be pulled, I fully support that. I do want to make sure that we have all of the tools necessary to address human trafficking. As we all know, that is a crucial issue in our region, and I know that Norman PD takes it very seriously, along with Mary Abbott House and the sheriffs and all our other law enforcement partners. But we do have a motion to, yes, ma'am.
I will say this, about the tool itself, it is a phenomenal tool. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. It is an asset that would be invaluable, you know, in our tool chest to help combat internet crimes against children and human trafficking, and we would love to have it. So like I said, we will seek funding elsewhere and maybe get it approved. But make no doubt about it, the tool does what it is said to do, and it's a very phenomenal tool.
Thank you. We do have a motion on the floor to accept, however, so we will need to vote. So council members, the motion on the floor, oh, we have lots of questions. Okay, Councilmember Foreman still have questions after his recommendation.
Mine was just going to be, or my only question was, do you know that there's other companies or where this can be obtained outside of them? Do you know?
As far as other companies, this is the standard, you know,
Okay.
and our
So
constituents.
it's not proprietary? to
Yeah,
them.
no, our constituents across the country, you know, this is the tool that they use, and they've gone to it, and they've boasted about great results. What we currently have is a tool that we used back when I was an investigator. We just updated the software, but it can't do what this tool can do. It cannot get into iOS phones and software and unencrypt and get us into those phones to get that evidence. So this is really the standard, Gray Key.
Yeah, I was going to just say to the city manager that I would be interested in funding this ourselves if we had to for the police department. So that was all.
Thank you. For questions, Councilmember Holman?
My questions have been answered. I appreciate your thoroughness in looking into those concerns, Deputy Chief, and agree with comments already made.
Thank you. Councilmember Hall?
First of all, in regard to the tool itself, is the $25,000 award that is part of this grant, would that be is that close to the actual amount that you would need to
Yes,
acquire
it
this?
would be, but this is for the Cadillac version of that. This is
Okay.
for unlimited access to the downloads, okay? Now, you can get a lesser package, you know, for instance, say if you want 100 downloads or 200 downloads. And what I would do is go back to my section, my special investigation section. I will ask him roughly yearly, how many of these downloads do we use? I mean, so to pay for, kind of get an idea, pay as we go kind of deal versus the Cadillac version. So, yeah, it's the tool itself is, I think it's not very expensive. It's the licensor and the user use every year that where the money gets up there. And again, the number of downloads is what gets it up there.
So I just wanted to make sure that the approximate amount of $25,000 would cover the cost of the tool that you need.
It would cover the cost of the tool and the user licensor to use it for the year. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
And then I just would like to add a comment of how much I appreciate sincerely you using your investigative abilities instead of just Googling it on the internet to reach out to your colleagues across the country and to use the resources that you have available to you to come to this conclusion, and actually looking into the facts of what the problems may be and the current challenges with this organization. So I really appreciate your due diligence.
Thank you. Councilmember Schuler?
Yeah, I just have, I guess, a question about the tool as well. And I guess about the mechanism on how that would be used and kind of the process. How would we go about obtaining, you know, an iPhone or something that would that you would utilize the software to get this data off of? Like, would that be through court order, through, you know, subpoena powers? Like how?
Yes, we would need a search warrant to be able to, not only to get into the phone, but also to obtain the phone. It may take as many as 1, 2, or 3 search warrants to actually get access inside the phone and extrapolate that information.
So a citizen would know that you were doing and utilizing something to get information off of their phone.
Absolutely.
This would not be without their knowledge.
Absolutely, and they'll also know when we get off the phone. We'll leave a return explaining to them, this is exactly what we pulled off your phone. This is the evidence we obtained from your phone.
Okay, I'm just wanting to, full disclosure and kind of transparency of how this would be utilized, and with public knowledge of how that would be utilized through kind of that process. And I would also like to echo what my fellow council members have said about thanking you for doing your due diligence, for listening to the concerns that Councilmember Studley brought to our attention, and reaching out to your colleagues and really investigating the organization. And thank you for, pulling this when you didn't feel comfortable with that specific organization.
Thank you. Councilmember Peacock.
Yeah, all my questions have been answered, but I'll again take the opportunity to say thank you for asking the hard questions and putting in your due diligence. I know it means a lot to this body up here that we're armed with all the facts and able to make the best decision. So thank you again.
Thank you. Councilmember Lynn?
Just real quick, just so I think everybody's clear, this is a tool that is completely available outside any connection to this company, right?
That is correct.
So you want the tool, you don't want the relationship with the company that was going to provide it.
That is correct.
I just want to make sure that everybody knew that they are able to be a part and they're not connected. And that's it. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Councilmember Tortorello.
Thank you, Chief. Just one last question. So when will we be able to get a tool like this working? What's the time frame now? So we're not taking this tool. What's the time frame from the tool that you're choosing?
I would think that as soon as we're able to get the funding, that we can actually reach out to the company and obtain this tool.
Okay. I'm just kind of curious. What did you find out about this company?
Sorry?
The company, the Gray Key. What did you find out about them? What was so disastrous that we could not use
Well,
this tool?
it wasn't, honestly, it wasn't anything that was really disastrous or anything of that nature. It was just, again, there's even the stuff on the internet, and in addition to the internet, being able to verify some of that stuff or validate it through our constituents across the country, some of the concerns. Now, bear in mind, the investigation is still ongoing. There's no disposition on the case. There's no ruling by a judge. There's nothing of that nature. But when you tend to have lots of information that may be kind of adverse to the nature of what the intent of the company is, perhaps, and if you have your constituents verify, validate some of those concerns as well, that was enough for me and our agency to decide, we can do other things. We can reach out for other funding sources and try to get this thing purchased that way.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. This is an opportunity for members of the public to make comments regarding this item. Madam Clerk, are there any speakers registered?
Mark Campbell.
Thank you. I just found out about this last Wednesday watching YouTube, and I reached out to Apple, and Apple told me, I'm not representing Apple, but I am an iOS user, and I had government phones forever. I had track phones, they would break down. I had the highest cost government phone, it would break down every 3 months. I had a really bad landlord. A federal case was brought on my behalf, and I couldn't document anything, so I decided it was worth, even on my fixed income, saving for an Apple device. And part of what you enjoy as an Apple customer is the fact that they protect your data. And Apple told me that they would not allow someone to get a warrant for an iOS device. And what I seem to be hearing from Deputy Jackson and the questions from City Council is that it would just go through a local judge. Now, I don't know. Apple also said something is rolling out later this year in regards to this issue, but as you may not know, with Apple, nothing is announced until it's officially announced. And I did share with City Council that Apple currently has features for parents to turn off some feature so that children cannot receive or send these images. And Apple already searches for these images and also the sharing of these images in the cloud. And there are reputable organizations such as the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, which was founded by Ronald Reagan, and uses software called Palantir. I don't know if it's exactly the same, but it's not going to be an annual ask for money. And Apple also said basically that a police department would not be able to keep up with their constant updating of software. I don't know what that means, but I'm afraid that this may be a constant small police department trying to battle the largest corporation, I think, in the world. So I don't know. And it also kind of, just as a citizen, it seems like our police department is going after a certain company, and I have concerns about illegal searches and seizure. And I also have concerns, as in June of 2020, when our city council member did not give our police department their full ask for funding, and our city council has iOS devices, I'm worried, what could police do? Anybody could be sued for anything. Deputy Jackson said, we have been approached to get this software. Approached by who? And there could be suspected phones. Suspected by whom? Anyone's phone could be suspected by anyone, as far as I know, as a citizen. So I have real concerns about illegal search and seizure and what could be the possible intent behind this. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
also want to say, my degree is in counseling. I had rape crisis team training. And both perpetrators as well. And I have approached counsel for years about short-term rentals.
Okay, Mr. Campbell, your time is up for this issue.
Haven't received any responses about it, so I'm a little concerned that
Okay.
we're suddenly concerned about this issue.
Okay, thank you. This is an opportunity for council to make final comments regarding this item. Seeing none, the motion on the floor is to accept the donation. Council members, you may cast your votes.
Just to be clear, a yes vote, you're accepting it, a no vote means you're rejecting it. All votes have been cast and the motion fails unanimously.
Thank you.